Lamek Emoru, who is an assistive technology coordinator with ReLAB-HS. Good morning.
Good morning.
And the beautiful lady at the extreme end is Esther Okulo, who is a head of some physiotherapy unit, Mengo Hospital. Good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
It's quite amazing to see how ReLAB-HS has been able to bring all the different people from private sector to come on board, and we are able to see how they're supporting and working hand in hand to see to it that these services are brought closer to the layman. I'll start with you, Mr. Lamek. When we talk about ReLAB-HS, who is ReLAB-HS?
Well, thank you, Sophie. It's a pleasure to be here talking about ReLAB-HS once again. ReLAB-HS in full is learning, acting, and building for rehabilitation in health systems. It is a USAID-funded activity in Uganda, but also in other countries. We work in Uganda and in Pakistan currently. Previously, we had our work in Ukraine, but because of the challenges, we are no longer there. So it is a 5-year funded activity, and we are in the 5th year, actually. It is an activity that is looking at integrating rehabilitation and AT into the health system. So all our work focuses on responding to the growing need of rehabilitation, but looking at integrating it at all levels of care, not just at the national level, but we're also looking at the primary healthcare levels of care.
I'd like to ask you again then to tell us about how you are coexisting and supporting, because we thought some of these things, yes, government is possibly doing or is not doing. So how are you trying to be able to have that margin, see that you're able to support?
Yeah. ReLAB-HS doesn't work in silos. It provides technical support or assistance to the Ministry of Health to ensure that we are able to do the integration process, because we are a health system strengthening activity. We have 3 objectives as an activity, and the objectives are to, 1, improve on the delivery and demand of quality rehabilitation and assistive technology services in the country. The second objective is to develop capacity of health system managers and providers in relation to rehabilitation and AT, but also the other one is to support the development and implementation of plans and policies related to rehab and AT. So our work with MOH ensures that Ministry of Health still continues to provide the leadership role as we provide the technical assistance, but in that we bring together other stakeholders like WHO, who provide guidelines in health. We bring in other private sector actors who come in and also contribute to the development of systems that are responsive to the growing needs of rehab and AT. Yeah, so this is how we really work with Ministry of Health. We don't work in silos.
Then my other question before I come to Dr. Moses, how are you able to mobilize these other stakeholders and private partners I'm seeing with today? Because that's a bit of what our topic is, and I believe also to integrate them on board.
We really have platforms, different platforms in which we interact, because when you look at our 3 objectives, you realize that it cuts across and so in a health system, it's basically the public and the private domains that we find components. And so in implementation of our activities, we ensure that with the leadership of Ministry of Health, because to be honest, we probably don't have contacts with all these organizations in the country. Ministry of Health does their leadership role to ensure that we coordinate. I'm going to give examples. For example, the development of the national plan for rehabilitation and ethics, the strategic plan. It is something that brings in divergent views, and therefore, with the health system strengthening efforts, it's more than just ReLAB-HS. We need to hear from the providers, and then that is how we contact the providers. We need to hear from suppliers of AT. That's how we get to contact the suppliers of AT, and so on and so forth. So, but MOH has really provided the leadership in ensuring that we are coordinated as a country, and we provide the technical support.
Okay. Now, Dr. Moses, I come to you from CORSU. Yeah. There's a time when, like, I think it's one of those very big, renowned rehabilitation hospitals that specifically focuses on entirely that. Am I right? You might want to take us a little bit briefly into the history of CORSU, because I don't take it for granted that everybody knows who you are as a hospital.
Yeah. Thank you very much. CORSU Hospital is a private, not-for-profit NGO, and we've been in existence since 2009. And our primary focus is the provision of, or making it accessible for the people with physical disability to access healthcare, adequate healthcare in this particular field. Our focus is largely on children, and that shows in our numbers. We have about 70% of our clients are actually children, not just in the central region, but all over the country. We also get patients from as far as South Sudan, Congo, Rwanda, Tanzania. And we work through a number of partner organizations, and these partner organizations help us to reach out to the communities, and they source those patients and bring them to us, and we manage them. Our core mandate for managing these patients is we provide all kinds of orthopedic surgery, plastic surgery, and lots of rehabilitation, basing on the things that we have available at our hospital. We are looking to expand on the different super specialties where physical disability might also occur. So that is neurosurgery and urology, among other things. So that is basically CORSU at a glance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then how big are the numbers you normally attend to? Because there are certain times it will help us to be able to get a feel of how big the problem is that we are dealing with.
So on average, our outpatient clinics, we get to see about 28 to 29,000 patients per year, which is quite significant. And imagine these are all patients that are coming from across the country. We, on average, perform about 4,000 to 5,000 surgeries per year on these patients, and the number of rehabilitative procedures that we get to do in a year is about 12,000, and provision of assistive devices and prosthetics and orthotics, the number probably comes to about 9,000. So it just shows the amount of disability that is out there in the community. But at the same time, we are not the only providers. There are so many people out there that we do not reach, but the number of people that we actually reach are quite significant, even for a small hospital as CORSU. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about some of these things like the assistives, do you have any way in which some of these bits are for free? Let's say like the prosthesis, are some of these services for free? Because I'm imagining the cost implication.
Yes, all these things are very, very costly. CORSU was founded through the help of some donors, in particular CBM, which is Christian Blind Mission. And they helped us establish the hospital. And part of that, they continue to fund the hospital. CORSU is donor funded, largely donor funded. We get about 40% of our annual budget through donor funding. And it's through this donor funding that we actually subsidize the cost of all our activities be it the outpatient care, be it surgery, or even the assistive devices that these patients tend to get.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to get to Esther. Esther, of course, as a head of a physiotherapy unit, I'd like you to share with me from Mengo Hospital. I'd like you to take me a little bit into what the average day is like for you as the head of a unit. What is it like? Is it very active? Is it a service that people think, you know, that traditional of like, if my back is hurting, I lie on my belly and then have somebody trod over my back and then I think I'm sorted?
Thank you very much. A typical day is a bit difficult to describe because it varies so much. Being a private practice depends on the patient's availability and how they can afford. So sometimes we are really busy, sometimes it is quiet. So generally, like within a week, we can see between 80 and sometimes up to 200. So it really varies a lot. I cannot say that, you know, we are going to be having so many patients. It varies a lot. And this is again because a lot of people are not really aware about physiotherapy. So they don't know that if I have such and such a condition, I can go and be helped. So eventually some of them get to learn about it from fellow patients who have benefited, then they come. So in fact, the number is getting bigger and bigger as people get more aware.
And among the patients that you keep seeing, what are some of the pronounced conditions? Because I believe there are some which, you know, this with physiotherapy you can handle, and there are some of those where you might have to do a referral and somebody will need the assistive technology. Yes.
The majority of our patients actually suffer from back pain. And it is both young and old people, not necessarily just the old ones. Then a lot of neck problems. Some of these are due to occupational hazards. What they do results in this. Then a lot of trauma, post fractures and things like that. And then also the children, birth defects. So it is quite varied. But as I said, back pain is the majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then what about what percentage do you have those that are using assistive technology?
Maybe I could say about 20% or something like that. Yeah. These are mostly the crutches, mostly walking aids, the braces which they use for the back, corsets and things like that, collars, those things. Those are the ones that we use mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Madam Naloja, I get to you. I'm told you have a story, and I think it's from your story that you are inspired to come up with the association that you have to be able to support others. Please take this time to share with us a bit of your story.
Oh, thank you so very much, Sophie, and to the viewers. I'm happy to be sharing my experience as a mother of a child that was born with a congenital anomaly, which is spina bifida and hydrocephalus 11 years ago. And so we have walked the journey for now 11 years. And from my experience, like keeping it in line with what we are sharing about this morning is, it's an expensive condition, I should say. That when Blessing was born, access to services was not easy, and the access to information about the condition was not very, very easy. So spina bifida is what can I say? It's a neurotube defect, and a child gets this condition when she's 28 days after conception. So,
sorry, sorry, Grace. Okay, she's still telling you about that condition. Okay. She's telling us about the condition. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I just need some water. I said when we are starting, some of us have special needs that, when we are undergoing certain health medication, we are like, we can't talk and talk for a long time. But anyway, so spina bifida is a birth defect that affects the spine, and a child gets this condition during the 28 days or the first 4 weeks after the mother has conceived. So my daughter was detected at 7 months before birth that she will be born with a defect. But of course the information concerning the defect, how she will be managed, where I'll be accessing the services from, was not there. It was really like very brief, and the way it was given to me, I think I was not prepared to receive that kind of information. When we are pregnant, every mother would expect to have the best pregnancy outcome. But when they break the news that you're having a baby that will have a defect, and no much information is shared, no much counseling is done, it really affects you, and you become another special need case that needs rehabilitation at that point, but no one is there to offer such services. So this baby was born, and when she was born, the neurosurgeon who was supposed to attend to her was out of the country 11 years ago. So they had to call the neurosurgeon. I was in a private hospital, and he had flown to Nairobi. So I had to foot the air ticket for the neurosurgeon to come back to the country to work on my daughter. And we underwent the first surgery, because when a child is born with spina bifida, they recommend that they receive surgery in the first 48 hours to avoid to avoid infections, to close the back. Because it is usually like a wound. Some of them, there are different types of spina bifidas. So at times the back is bone open, other times it is just a sac that is holding the nerves and the cerebrospinal fluid. So it is a very delicate condition that needs immediate surgery, immediate attention by a specialist. So the surgeon came in, she was taken for an operation, but still I was not given any information concerning the condition. Thank God by then we had started having access to smartphones, that I reached out to the smartphone and I read about the condition. But still the information online was not that positive. We have just started getting positive information about this condition online. So it was so demotivating and demoralizing that you could feel like, if it wasn't by the grace of God, that you really feel like you should leave the child in the hospital, and whatever happens, it's none of your business, and because it was so scary. So she was operated on the first day. The cost was very, very high, and after 2 weeks, she developed hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus is the excess buildup of cerebrospinal fluid around the brain. So her head started bulging. So when the head started bulging, the neurosurgeon told us that we are taking her for another surgery. And we of course, we asked to change the hospital. By then we were in a private hospital, and we wanted to go to the government-aided hospital. But again, going to the government-aided hospital, it was the same neurosurgeon there. And when we went there, we didn't find the adequate, the necessary services, equipment, and all that. And then we were kind of stuck. We had to go back to the private. And each surgery would cost us not less than 2 million shillings. So 2 weeks after she was operated on, and they had to place a shunt. A shunt is a plastic tube that they place in the child's head to drain the excess water from the head. And it was supposed to be a permanent thing. But because it is a foreign body, I think the baby's body did not accept it embrace it well, that she got infections. We treated these infections with the most expensive antibiotics, but still at the end of the dose, it did not work. I remember by then, the drug was called meropenem, something like that, and the bottle was around 180,000, and each day we would need like 1.25 bottles. And this medication was very delicate, that a mess in storage would make it go bad. So it so happened that in the hospital, I think storage facilities were not so good, that we kept on losing bottles just because of the storage of this medication. So a lot happened. Of course, the mother is stressed, and then because of the cost, you reach out to people, you sell all that you have to save the life of the young one, and you're not sure whether when this is going to end, because like I said, information about care and long-term care was never given to us. So for us, we were like just counting a day. Oh, today it's all done, and you know, before you know it, another complication crops in. None of them informed us about the complications that come together with a child being born with spina bifida. So we had to manage her hydrocephalus. So she underwent 4 major surgeries in the first 3 weeks because shunts kept on failing. Each shunt would cost us about 500,000. So they would remove a shunt, treat the infection, put back another one. So that was all a cost, and it's not that we were insured, it's not that the treatment was free, so basically all was very expensive. And in addition to having a child with, who had developed hydrocephalus, we were very incontinent. My daughter couldn't control bladder, couldn't control her bowel. So poo-poo was and so and her skin was very, very sensitive. Children born with spina bifida always have a problem of skin insensitivity. So like each high sensitivity of the skin. So each time we would use any type of pamper, we kept on changing diapers, but they would irritate her skin, and then we had 2 things to treat, to manage the leakage and then the wounds around the skin. So we had to outsource the creams and all that to take care of the child, at the same time managing the continence. So we had to be introduced to catheters. Catheters, in this case, I would refer to them as an assistive technology.
To pass out the urine?
Yes, because she couldn't do it normally. So, but we had to always help her to keep dry because they always have hyperactive bladders. So for us to keep her a little bit dry, we were introduced to catheters. This is a catheter that you use, like you insert, drain the urine, then you wash it, you keep it in a clean cloth, you put it back. But of course, also getting it wasn't very easy because even up to today, we don't have such supply in our country. We 100% rely on donations from Belgium, so which is a big problem to the spina bifida fraternity, that you find one child using one catheter for over 6 months, which has continued to expose our children to
infections, UTIs,
kidney issues. So basically, in addition to my child being continent, what I'm sharing is about my daughter. All children are unique, but most of them, about 80%, have similarities, especially spina bifida children. Most of them who are born with spina bifida end up developing hydrocephalus, then they are incontinent, they can't control their bladder, they cannot control their urine, so they will need long life care, long life rehabilitation. And she had club foot. Her footwear, how do I describe club foot? Maybe carved feet. And so we had to undergo corrective surgery to have the feet brought back, because they started with putting plasters, but still it kept on reoccurring. So it is so common still in children with spina bifida. So until we got to that level of now, muscles were getting stiff, and so they had to do that corrective surgery. And so it has been really a long journey. So amidst that, I was confused, and I'm a social scientist. And I used to work in a research organization where we used to interact with HIV patients and all that. So I was really pushed to try to understand whether what I was going through was in any way similar to the mothers that had the same children. And because my daughter's condition had wasted me physically, financially, emotionally, I was like living but not living.
I understand.
And it had been a long kind of period without enjoying my life, myself as a human being. Your friends have abandoned you, your family, because you no longer participate in their things, and you're lost between where to access the services from. Yeah, because the services are scattered. It was by then very difficult to find a service provider with all, for example, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and other things in one place. And even coordination then was very easy. So you go to this service provider, he doesn't know where to refer you to. And so it's all about you as a caregiver to maneuver through the difficult situations until you get to the right service providers. But of course, not ignoring the fact that the community also has its perceptions about your born child. So they are discouraging you. Don't go there, you're wasting your money. There is someone here who can do it right, someone who can put the bones right, who can put the head right. So you're completely lost. So amidst that, I remembered my profession, that no, I think I need to bring together my fellow mothers to just understand. I didn't have this vision of coordinating care for families, advocating for the provision of accessible services and creating awareness about the condition, but just to come together, we share, we laugh, we eat, because it was like we were in our own island. And sharing with other mothers, it was not in any way different from my story. Actually, I was better off than most of them, because most of them, one, were not working. I was a working mother, so I could at least afford. And two, I was in a network of professionals, so I could easily reach out to, for example, Moses, Lameka, and so they could advise me before it is too late. But most of the mothers were really lost in the communities, and they didn't have access to even the basic services that they could give their children. So their children were older than mine, and they had never gotten any interventions. So we started up that group, mother support group, and then as we were there, we invited one of the friends who gave us the idea of formalizing this group. So we started slowly. That was towards end of 2014. So we formalized the group from a community group to an NGO. Now it is a national umbrella of support groups across the country, in all the regions of the country. And so our mandate as the organization is to improve the quality of lives of people born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus, but also to contribute to the reduction of the risk through primary prevention. Because as we create awareness, we are speaking about folic acid intake, folic acid supplementation, dietary diversity, those things that are known for preventing congenital anomalies to the communities. But we are also play a key role in coordinating care. We make sure that there is timely referral, there is follow-up, and clear coordination and access to the right and timely information, because these were the key, really missing links in between the care of children with spina bifida. Yes.
Okay. I'll get back to you. I'm going to let you first take a sip of water.
Take a sip of water.
A sip of water, and then I'll get back to you later. I get back to you, Lamek. You know, because based on her story and based on what we are hearing, I would like you to give us an overview and a picture of what is it like in terms of, like, can you be able to have an assessment and say that assistive technology is lacking in region so and so because of these factors. At least, you know, when you're in the central hub in Kampala, you're sure most of these things are, you know, are close to where you can access them. But I believe people up there are struggling. Please share with us.
Yeah, thank you. If I am to start with the need and that main need of assistive technology, we don't have assistive products. We don't have many people accessing assistive products. As ReLAB-HS, we conducted a survey, what we call the RATA, the Rapid Assistive Technology Assessment for the country. This document can be found at the knowledge portal of Ministry of Health. What came out is that when you look at the people that need assistive technology, out of every 100, about 25 people cannot access. And that is a very big number. But those that are able to access it are at about 4%. The net need for assistive technology is about 4% when we look at our RATA. So that is still very small. And those that are actually in a position, in a very undeserved position, like she was mentioning about catheters and pampers. These are part of assistive products, but for self-care. Self-care assistive products are one of those that are not being accessed in the country. So there are many reasons for this, because still as ReLAB-HS, we did a journey mapping and market research for AT. And along the way, like you already mentioned, there were differences. Those in the urban areas could probably access it better than those in the rural areas. Reason being, one, the cost of these products. When products come into the country, you find that there are taxes along the way, but these taxes end up increasing the cost for the consumer, the consumer. And therefore, if I bought a product in Kampala, it is cheaper than if I bought it in Lira, for example, because of the transportation cost. But also, too, the number of service providers. Yes, you've heard her talking about physiotherapy. We also have occupational therapists and orthopedic technologies. Not all of them are actually recruited. You know, most of these service providers are at the level of regional referral hospitals and some district hospitals. For example, Tororo had a physiotherapist, I'm not sure about now, but they had Tororo District Hospital. So you realize that when you get down to the level of the primary health care, they are nowhere to be seen. Health Center 2s, 3, 4s, and the community. So that means that if I went with an assistive technology need in a facility, the healthcare provider may not even think about doing an assessment for me because the provision is not at that level. Okay? Even the issues around referral, they may not think about it. They may look at me and imagine I've come for treatment for malaria. Then they would do their assessment, the investigations, and treat me for malaria. Even when I'm crawling, no one will think about, you may probably need a walking frame or crutches. No one will think about that because there are no service providers around that level. But also awareness on assistive products, which comes with the myth. If I am a bit weak and I need support, and then I get a walking cane, most people will think that, oh, maybe he's rich. That is why he's moving with a walking cane. So those are some of the myths around it. And of course, when they think about assistive products, we are thinking about persons with disabilities. Okay? But imagine everyone putting on glasses. Would you call them persons with disabilities? But they still need the AT. we are talking about children in hospital or the elderly who may need adult diapers, which are part of assistive products. But when you talk about assistive products, you're looking at persons with disabilities, which is a myth that we need to remove from the people. So all this actually result into access to AT being a challenge. And then the other thing is the local production capacity in the country. We still have a challenge. We have facilities that are producing AT. Dr. Fisher, has the 3D technology in CORSU. Then we have places like Katalemwa. But when you look at the places, they're all in around Kampala or the urban areas. So when you get down to away from the central business district, you realize that the access to AT continues reducing and reducing. Yeah, so these are some of the challenges that we find in accessing AT. And of course, from the government side, the issue of prioritization. I think that is something that we need to look into, because in the hospitals we have Panadol being delivered through the last mile delivery system of NMS, the National Medical Stores. So when you get to AT, we don't have centralized procurement. And that is a challenge, which means that most of the access to AT is through out-of-pocket expenditure, and it's catastrophic. Yeah, and not many people have the money to be able to procure AT. Even with insurance, most of the AT services are not insured. So these are some of the challenges that actually affect access to assistive technology in the country. Yeah.
Okay. Now he did say something that caught my attention about people having the 3D, at CORSU, to be able to support or be able to make some of these technologies. Please go ahead and share with us.
CORSU, we are privileged to have, I think, one of the biggest orthopedic workshops in the country. And like he had mentioned, yes, we still have so many challenges. So just a brief background. In Uganda, orthopedic workshops used to be at regional referral hospitals, and these were set up in the 60s. And this was as a result of the scourge of polio during those days. So there was a gentleman called Professor Hackstep who developed the first wheelchair, locally made wheelchairs. And by 1998, we had sort of wiped out polio from Uganda. The facilities were still there. They're actually still there, but they are not well equipped. When the NRM government came into power, the biggest challenges that they had to deal with were those 6 killer diseases. And so advocacy for immunization was high on the list, advocacy for treatment of things like malaria, and then the HIV pandemic broke out. And so their priorities have been elsewhere. But you still find that the longer people survive, the more there is a need for certain things. So in this case, assistive devices, you have your crutches, you have your wheelchairs. These people are not going away. They are being made to survive much longer. Okay, so for example, a child with spina bifida being able to grow up to become a responsible adult, because the problem is not with the brain, it's actually with the spinal cord. So they have problems with mobility, but they're very, very intelligent. They have to get around. Okay, so at CORSU we are privileged to have a workshop. It's quite big with regards to the capacity, and we fabricate most of the appliances that we issue out to people. We also outsource from certain other workshops that do not have the items. So of course the bigger challenge is not everything can actually be made locally, because the raw materials have to most of the times be imported. And so that brought us to thinking, what else can we do as an institution to try and reduce, first of all, the cost, and then increase the access to some of these things. So we developed a program that has 3D printing capacity. So some of the assistive devices that we issue our patients are actually 3D printed. I'll give you an example of some prosthetics, the artificial limbs, or the orthoses, the ones that help in aiding a person to move better. So some of those are actually 3D printed when you come to the hospital, and then others are actually made by the conventional technology. So the advantages that we've seen, of course, with the 3D printing is it takes a shorter time. So for example, if we were to go with the conventional means of making an artificial limb, it will take you anywhere between 1 week to 3 weeks. But now when we have all the components in place and you want to fit that extension, which we call a socket, on the patient, then it usually takes us about 48 hours to just have that printed, have the patient scanned, and then the printing process goes on for about 48 hours, and then the final process maybe takes about 5 days, much less than the conventional technology that we have. And then it also becomes much cheaper for the patient, because remember, whenever these patients come into the hospital, they're coming from far. Not all of them are based in Kampala. Some of them are coming from up country, and so you want as much as possible to have them less inconvenienced with regards to the place they are going to stay, the food they are going to eat, and all of those things. So you try to reduce on the cost as much as possible. So yes, among other things that you can make with 3D printed technology, the options are quite immense, and it depends on the number of machines or the strength of the machine that you have. The supplies or the raw materials that we get are usually imported, because we do not make those particular materials, but we do procure enough that will last us maybe a couple of months or even years, and then you can have the services readily available to the patients.
Have you thought of, because given the fact that you're able to have that technology in place, have you thought of, is it difficult for us to make the own raw materials for the prosthesis? Why must we keep on importing, and for how long is the importing going to go on?
So the manufacturing industry in Uganda is still not as strong as we would want it to be. So for example, some of the materials might be made out of stainless steel, others made out of titanium. These are things that are not readily manufactured in the country. And then at the same time, we do not have such a very big market. So for example, places like China that have a very huge population, they have a huge market. And so they are able to manufacture most of these items at a very, very reduced cost. The cost of us doing it here locally would be astronomical, and then you would end up not providing services that are actually out of the reach for the ordinary Ugandan, which is what we are trying as much as possible to remove or to reduce. The world is a global market. It's we no longer have to look at ourselves as that cocoon whereby we have to be self-sufficient. If your neighbor is able to do it at a much cheaper cost, and you're able to deliver the service at a much cheaper cost, then why not? We shouldn't always try to thump our chests and feel that we must do everything, because these other people that are doing these things have done them for years. And if we are to start on something, then we have to really, really invest in that. And for that to happen, we start small. We start small by the locally available materials that we have, of course at a very high cost, and then you start building on that. So with regards to most of these assistive devices that we see, majority of them are being imported into the country. And that is largely the reason, because first of all, the people that can have access to are very, there are many, but then there are few in regards to someone has to pay. The average Uganda whose daily spending is about 1,000 shillings might not be able to afford an assistive device of about 100,000 shillings. So someone has to come in and bear that cost. Okay. So in this case, who is going to bear that cost? Will it be the patient? Will it be a donor, or will it be government? Of course, most of the times we have to say that government has to come out and do all of these things, because it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that we have a healthy nation. And so some of these things can come in, of course, through different schemes, tax incentives, and all those other ways of regulating the quality of the items that come into the country, such that we do not have fake items coming into the country, and then also making them readily accessible. I am glad that the government started on a strategic plan for rehabilitative services. Well, of course, it's still in the infant phases, but at least they are now starting to think about it, now that we've combated things like polio, like malaria. HIV is under control. Now let's start thinking about other things. So I think that will go a very, very long way in making most of these assistive devices quite accessible and affordable to the common Ugandan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. At this particular point, I would like us to take a very short break. Then when we do come back, we still continue with our topic of discussion.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Chikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Uganda, are you ready to kick things up to the next level? The Uganda National Lottery brings you Sports Take 10. Predict the results of 10 football games and win big. With tickets at only 500 shillings, join the fun and make your predictions count with Sports Take 10. Sports Take 10, your ticket to football glory.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
I'm called Ezekiel Wanjikate. We are in Bisala village, that is in Luka district. This is a commercial agriculture farm purely run on a family basis. We are now concentrating on coffee, and we got that coffee in 2018 from Operation Wealth Creation. NADS gave us the solar water pump, which we are currently using to put up irrigation on the farm and be able to irrigate the coffee, which is sitting on a 30-acre area. What we're able to reap out of the coffee, we're able to sell it off and make an expansion, because with irrigation you can't go wrong, but be able to pick all around the whole year. And that's all income that will be coming in. On a special thanks goes to Operation Wealth Creation, to the district local government in Luka district that has also given us the support to supervise all the work that we have been doing. And finally, NADS that gave us the solar water pump.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, every story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that very short break, and I hope by now you're still, following through into our topic of discussion. Thank you for keeping it locked with us here. And I'm never the expert on these issues. I also get to learn just like the rest of you. Our topic of discussion is properly displayed on screen, and we still continue with the discussion. Now, I would like to get to you, Madam Akulo. Of course, as private sector, I have seen Mengo Hospital has done very well as far as eye care is concerned with that state-of-the-art complex somewhere there along Balintuma Road. What are the plans when it comes to physiotherapy? Do we also see you advance and have a special unit given the way and the rate at which people need this rehabilitation and assistive technology? Yes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Mengo is doing very well as far as eye is concerned, and I don't think it's only eye. I think that is an outsourced service now, and I'm glad to say that even physiotherapy department is actually outsourced. We have been there since 2010, we work under Pan-Care Physiotherapy Services. And we have a department in Mengo as well as Mukwaya General Hospital. So we started in a humble way. We were like about 3 physios or so. But now as we continue to gain numbers of patients, clients getting aware and coming more and more, we are also increasing the number of the physios. Because we don't only treat the outpatients, but we also go to the inpatients. And things like intensive care unit, the maternity women, we see them as well. So our number is getting bigger, and we hope that with time, even the physio department is going to get bigger and bigger. Yes.
Okay. And what are some of the challenges you're facing? Because I can imagine there are times people will think, we also have a mentality where we think, if I buy a device, within the unit, it is costly. So some people would think, I think I should ask a friend I have in the UK to buy it and send it for me here, forgetting about the taxes. So what is the situation like for you?
Just as you said, the patients find it difficult to access these things. But we are in connection with people who import them. So through them, when somebody needs a device, we call, and then they bring and deliver. Or we direct them to where they can go and get. But our challenges are that in terms of charges, we can't also charge too much, although we are a private practice. But Mengo's policy is private without profit. So we've got to sort of adjust to the Mengo policy so that we don't overcharge our patients as well. So that is one big challenge as well. The other challenges are, as I said before, lack of awareness. Most patients, when they come to the hospital, they expect an injection or drugs or something like that. Now, as you know, physiotherapy is part of rehabilitation, which does not give drugs or surgery. We use other physical agents like heat, light, sound waves, electricity, exercises, and our hands. So sometimes they find it a bit difficult to accept this. But good thing is that when they have come 2 or 3 times, they feel better. So they know, this thing actually works. So they start appreciating it, which makes it easier for us. But still, we have a long way to go before we convince people that this is what you need. Unfortunately, some of the medical people also are not too much aware about physiotherapy. So we don't get many patients also being referred. Patients who are out there who really, really need physiotherapy are not sent to us, which is very unfortunate. If we could, we are trying our best now, maybe giving some CME continuous medical education to the other medical staff and all that, so that they become aware of the need for physiotherapy. So that is part of the challenge. And then, of course, physiotherapy is not something that you get once. You can come and then we say, you come again maybe for 3 weeks, 2 or 3 times in a week before you feel, really better. And that again makes it more expensive because every time you're coming, you have to pay. So those are the challenges that we have, really. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll get to Naluja. Of course, I know there is once I happened to be somewhere and you were in a stakeholders meeting and you did raise an issue and a concern about the diapers, the cost of the Pampers. Has that been sorted up to now, or we're still at the level at which you were engaged in this stakeholders conversation?
Thank you, Sophie. The struggle is still on, and we are still making noise over the diaper issue, and the challenge is that I think we lack proper coordination between the different authorities that are in charge, because when I remember when our Minister for Disability raised it before the cabinet, then the team from the Ministry of Finance defended, and they said that the taxes are only charged on the imported diapers. not locally made, but that's not the case. Out there, diapers on the market, they are all costing the same, and as our children keep growing, we tend that even the cost for such diapers tend to go high. And we've had some of our children drop out of school because the caregivers can no longer afford to access diapers and also the sizes that we need. I think because of the cost of production now, that because of the taxes that has gone up, even the production right now is low. So we have a problem in accessing them from the market and also accessing them like given the cost. So because our children have grown, they don't want to go to school with nappies. So some of them have decided to stay home until maybe when the situation will be okay. So the problem is still really on, and the noise is still on, that we are requesting the responsible authorities to consider waiving off the taxes on the diapers, because it's an assistive product that is essential among children with spina bifida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Besides that, what about the catheters that you did talk about? Because I'll give an example. I have seen among the breast cancer survivors, they try to make an arrangement where I think they can bring the services or some of these devices closer to where they can access them. As an association, have you thought of like importing them and having them, you know, selling them at an affordable price to fellow mothers who have children with this condition? Or it is hard and it might not be necessary for every single mother who has a child with the condition?
Thank you so very much, Sophie. This being a medical or an assistive product, it is regulated by the Ministry of Health, and you can't just import in such products. So they have to be, first of all, included on the primary list of medical supplies in the country, but of course even taxes. So as an association, what we have decided to do is to, through our advocacy work, is to outsource friends who can have them sent to Uganda. And the only advantage we have is that with our relationship with the Ministry of Health, they have allowed us to bring in those catheters. So as an association, we receive catheters and we distribute them at the satellite centers in the different parts of the country where children can easily access them. But the challenge is that, like we've been mentioning, that rehabilitation is ongoing and children keep growing, sizes keep changing, and the needs keep changing. So with catheters, we have different sizes, right from size 4 to size 16, I think size 22, but size 8 and size 10 are very, very rare. So, and our children are at that age of size 8 and size 10. When you use a wrong catheter, you will not be able to drain completely the bladder. So a child will be catheterizing but keep linking. So those are the challenges that we are still having, but as an association we are doing our best, that we are trying to bring the services closer, but it's not yet enough. Uganda is too big, and almost every year we get about 6,000 new cases of this condition. So just imagine the need, and as the recommended dose of a catheter is 1 per month, and we really feel that a parent cannot keep coming to those satellite centers because it's also some distance. You find someone in the northern region having to come from Noya to Gulu, which is very costly to access our satellite centers still, because it's not a matter of giving out catheters. You have to do the evaluation, and these children have to keep doing bladder evaluations to see the progress and if there are no infections. So it's really kind of a challenge, but like my colleague from ReLAB has been saying, rehabilitation is not only for persons with disabilities, and it's a lifelong, to some cases, it's a lifelong need that we really need to focus on and think about how best can we come together collaboratively, because the needs are diverse. Today I need a catheter, tomorrow I need a wheelchair or I need another device, which you cannot really, the association which cannot provide like completely or provide it all to the beneficiaries. So we need that concerted efforts to make sure that we work as a team, that there is that clear referral pathway or framework between the partners to enable us access the services. And then the other challenge that we are having is that we have a lot of duplicates. I think we don't have standardized regulations to regulate, to monitor and also regulate these the service providers. So as I talk about the catheters, you will see another person coming in with donations or at a small cost that they are giving catheters, but they are giving wrong catheters. Those are not the catheters that we are using or that are recommended for use in our children. And that has caused also a lot of problems among our fraternity. So I think to the big bosses here, they can talk about that, and maybe in our stakeholder meetings at the ministry level, we can continue to talk about how best can the service providers in the private practice be regulated to make sure that assistive technology that is given, devices that are given out there are appropriate to the needs of the people. We are so vulnerable, we are so needy that at times we need to be given. But that has also has caused more harm than good, that you're given a wheelchair, you're not assessed, you're not fitted to see whether it is the proper wheelchair. But because a parent needs to see a child moving from one place to place, they will embrace and accept the technology because of poverty and because of lack of awareness on the proper use and propriety that they need. So basically it's quite a wide range of challenges that we are experiencing as caregivers, but also as caregivers we are also having a challenge in accessing services for rehabilitation. Taking care of this child where you need to carry the child every morning can cause back pain, like my sister from Mengo said. But I call it occupational hazard because parenting is 24/7 job. You carry a child and you develop backache. It disturbed me for about 2 years, and Mengo had to put me under 11 sessions of physiotherapy, and would go, they expose you to electricity and massage your body with the machines and all those things, which another person might not be able to easily access. So as we rehabilitate our children with disabilities, also the caregivers need rehabilitation. The needs vary, but access to services is still a very big challenge. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to get to Lamek. At a national level, since inception, what can you say are some of the milestones?
Well, there have been a few key milestones that have been critical for rehabilitation in health systems in this country. The first one is what Dr. Fisher intimated on, the development of the National Rehabilitation and Assistive Technology Strategic Plan. This is the first of its kind in the country, and as we speak, it is at the approval level. We're just waiting for approval, actually. Yeah, so when this is approved, it will provide guidelines for rehab interventions in this country, not just in the public sector, but also with the private sector. The other key milestone has been the development of the indicators for rehabilitation and assistive technology in the HMIS system. You know, we have been a country that wasn't collecting data related to rehab and AT, and therefore when you ask what the burden of rehabilitation conditions is, it was very difficult to come out and say that we are having this number of maybe people needing physiotherapy, or this number of people needing occupational therapy, or this number of people needing assistive technology. Yet the burden is high. By 2019, the statistics we had for the country was that 1 in 6 people has a condition that requires rehabilitation, which means for us who are seated here, if we added 1 more person, that person could need a rehabilitation. But when you look at my mama with her glasses, now we are 5, but you see we have someone who needs rehab. So what is happening now is that the indicators have been inputted into the HMIS system. Capacity has been built in the different regional referral hospitals and the national referral hospitals. And currently we are doing some data quality reviews, seeing how have the rehab professionals been inputting the data. For example, service utilization or service uptake. So this is currently happening, and the DHI team at the Ministry of Health is working tirelessly. I think by January or early next year, this will be deployed, and we should be able to capture that data, Dr. Fisher, in our HMIS system. So the other thing has been our strategy. We feel it's a key milestone, the network of care as strategy. The network of care is a defined population. For example, when you go to a place like Lira, because we work in Lira, Gulu, Mayuge, and Ikanga, you'll find there are different levels of care, starting from the community, the primary health care level, then up to the regional referral hospital. So that is the defined population, and therefore we have had to use this this approach to provide that local support in ensuring that the integration for rehabilitation and it is actually done at that level. But as we speak, Ruth has been talking about the issue of regulation of the private sector and stuff like that. We are in the process of developing our assistive product price release for the country. This will be a list of products that we shall prioritize as a country. It is our wish list that if we are to have centralized procurement of AT, maybe these are the products that we want taken through the last mile delivery to the different hospitals. Now, with that, we shall also be developing standard operating procedures for the different products in the different domains of function. If I am to provide a crutch, we shall not get a donation from out and then call people to a field and then say, okay, these are products, these are crutches. You need one? Yes. Next? No. That has its own challenges in terms of secondary complications that will arise because of the proper use of the products. The products have to be given in the best possible way, where you do an assessment depending on the condition and the environment in which the patient is going to be using the product, and then you actually fit the product so that it is the right size for the patient, train on use, and then you do a follow-up. So we are looking at developing SOPs in relation to the provision of the AT services, but also for the supply chain. Yeah, which means we'll need to have the specifications, which specifications of products are supposed to be in our market. Yeah, so, but these are key milestones for us as a country.
Okay.
Yeah, and as ReLAB-HS.
Okay, then I get to Dr. Boses. Of course, apart from the 3D, which sounds like you really see we've advanced, what milestones can you record for CORSU and say that now these are also some of the others you proudly speak about?
Yeah, thank you very much. So with regards to the different areas in which we feel we've advanced as an institution, the first thing has been building the capacity of building the capacity of the institution through training. We've done lots of training of all our people that are employed, employing the right people that are teachable as well, and also training people in the communities where we go and do our outreaches to come and to understand the conditions. Like Lamek has said, you just don't go to a field and then you issue out devices. You have to issue them out to the right person. So that training has been quite substantial. It has also allowed for us as an institution to result in the innovation that we get to see. If the things are not being able to be brought into the country, then what other alternatives do we have? So you start to think outside the box as an institution. So building capacity, innovation, we, through our funding, have been recently able to scale up on our services. We have a much bigger workshop. We have a much bigger physiotherapy space and rehabilitation space. So maybe the other thing I didn't mention, CORSU stands for Comprehensive Rehabilitation Services for People Living with Disability in Uganda. It's a very long word, and it was just shrunk down to the acronym CORSU. And by that, what we actually do is we want the patient to come in into the hospital and get all the possible services they can get before going home. So it becomes like a one-stop shop. So we've had to integrate a couple of other things into the care of our patients. So things like occupational therapy, speech and language therapy. We have our orthopedic technologists, we have our physiotherapists, those that are specialized in different areas. And at the same time, of course, building the capacity of the workshop as well. So those are huge milestones, as not just for CORSU, but also as a nation, because we get to reach so many different people across the country through our network of partners, and that is one of the key areas that we feel proud of, in that we are able to now go and reach people that are in maybe Kalongo, which is in northern Uganda, or in Rushere, which is in western Uganda. And these people are able to access services that they would otherwise not be able to access. So those are some of the big areas that we feel we have established ourselves as an institution. Yeah.
Do we see you, besides us knowing where you are on Entebbe Road, do we see you spreading your tentacles, say, to one of the big upcountry centers soon?
Not at the moment. At least that's not in the strategic plan. It's mostly to consolidate on what we have. And so for us, the best way in which we reach out to the other people is not by establishing another center. We feel that through a network of partners, it becomes easier. And if we have those partners more educated and more empowered, it becomes, instead of establishing more centers, it becomes much easier for them to do some of the work that we would otherwise be doing, by empowering them, of course, that is. And then we just remain good at what we are good at doing. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'd like to get to Esther. Esther, what are some of the milestones? I did really feel you and hear you when you talked about the challenges that you're facing as a unit, but I believe there are also some milestones you would like to talk about, and milestones that you celebrate as a unit.
Yeah. As I said, we started in a humble way. I think there were 3 physios or so, but now as the number gets bigger, we've recruited more. We're at least 6, but we don't want to continue to work like a physio unit only, because rehabilitation includes many other people. Our closest company that we could get is the occupational therapists and language, hearing, and speech, language, and hearing therapists. So we hope that one of these days we shall be able to get them all under one roof in that same department, possibly. At the moment when we have challenges with those, if anybody who needs that, we refer them to occupational therapists or language. But we hope that in the near future we can all be under one roof. Of course, at the moment we're working with all the other departments because we don't work in isolation. Orthopedic, general surgery, intensive care, medical, and all that. We all work together. So our other thing is that we also do home visits.
Okay.
Yes, so that if there's somebody who cannot come, they contact us and we go and do that. So those are some of the things that we are now doing as we plan to grow bigger and bigger.
Okay.
Yes, and as I said, we have got another branch already in Mokwaya, but we also hope to open other branches. Of course, physiotherapy departments are now, in private practice, there are quite a number of physios who are reaching out. So it is quite well spread, but if we can be better known, I think we would get better results. And at this stage, I really want to appeal to the training, medical training schools, health training, to make physiotherapy also part of that. At least they mention it so that they are aware, especially the doctors, as they train. I remember when I used to work in Mulago before, the medical students would come and spend 3 weeks or so in the physio department. So they were well aware of what is going on, and that helped us a lot to work together with them. They know the conditions that need physiotherapy and things like that. So we are still trying to reach out as much as possible and make ourselves better known.
Now, when you talk about the willingness to spread further, it comes, of course, with the financial cost implications and the competition out there. Because at least now you'll find that some of the private, clinics or so, or hospitals are trying to make sure it's a component they have along with them. How ready and prepared are you for that?
Let me take an example like Mengo. They've made a maternity. They pay it as what is the word? Yes, a package. So especially not the private ones. So we sort of we have to go and see all the mothers who have delivered to give them postnatal exercises. So I think that is already a beginning of such a thing. And we are trying to campaign that all the others also should be having a package as such, so that at least everybody should get something like that. So possibly within the next few years, we hope that everybody will be able to afford. They give a bit of a percentage for physiotherapy so that we are able to provide the services.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I believe, Ruth, with every story and everything that goes on, like there are times when we move with our head downcast and you're like, people have problems, this is really tight, this is really hard. How old is a girl right now? She's 11, you said? How are you coping? I believe along the way, even you as an association, you have certain things you smile back, tap yourself on the back and on your back and you say, we have pulled it off.
Actually, things are not how we started. When we had just started, we were being laughed at and discouraged. And the picture that was always painted was, how will you afford? Everyone is working for themselves and God for us all. But as an organization, I want to say that we are very proud that we have brought the plight of spina bifida into the eyes of everyone at the country level. And though information may not have reached everyone, but at a greater extent, we have really done so well when it comes to creating awareness, and also positioning ourselves that right now it is very difficult for stakeholders to sit and discuss issues to do with health, and they don't engage the spina bifida and hydrocephalus fraternity as one of the commonest congenital anomaly. So we've been part of, we are right now brought on board, we are consulted when it comes to issues to do with congenital anomalies, and we are very proud of that. And we sit on the technical working committees in the different ministries. We support the Ministry of Education under the Special Needs Department, and we are doing a lot around inclusive education with them. We are part of the Ministry of Health under the Department of Nutrition Division, and we sit on the National Technical Working Group on Food Fortification, because we know that nutrition plays a key role, 70%, when it comes to preventing neurotube defects. And we are also a member of the Interministerial Coordination Committee hosted by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. So while in this kind of space, we feel like we have been given platform to ensure that even the invisible disabilities are incorporated into the national programming. And we really believe that services will be really improved, and because we are really integrated into the programming, and prevention majorly will be factored in all that they do, because these are preventable conditions. And then the other key achievement is that we are so proud that we are able to coordinate care between, and we have managed to bring closer public and private stakeholders. Recently we had the World Spina Bifida Day on the 25th of October, where we mobilized both private and public service providers, and we convened at Mulago and conducted a medical health camp. So we saw the private and public coming together to serve our people in a very harmonious way. And one of the outcomes of that health camp was it has kind of birthed an ongoing engagement with the stakeholders, both public and private. So we really believe that come next year, we have already laid the foundation. So both of them coming together and thinking of how best they can serve this fraternity, it will be very easy. And they all trust us that we are very good coordinators, so we shall be in between. And we are proud that originally it has not been very easy for example, the National Referral Hospital to refer cases back to the private service providers or to the associations. But with our interventions, for example, at the National Referral Hospital, Mulago invites us, calls us, and they refer cases back to where these children can be best managed in their communities. So it's like a top-down referral, which has not been really the case. So as an association, we are very proud of those achievements, and also the children that are being hidden, because right now we are able to see children coming in on time. Unlike in the past, you see a child coming 6 years, never been attended to, but right now most of the people we send to the hospitals are babies, which means information has reached out and the attitude in the communities is changing, that these children are being supported and people are aware that this is a medical condition that we can send to hospital. And our children are now grown-ups. They are able to stand on different platforms and share their lived experiences to inspire the communities. That is why mothers have come out to send their children for support. Of course, we are still having a challenge of further involvement in the whole
picture.
In the whole picture, like Esther said, physiotherapy, rehabilitation, you go to the hospital, you don't return home with medication, but every month you're required to go, and then when you go back, the husband is like, but where do you always go? You don't return with anything, and the outcomes are really slow. They don't just happen, and so fathers, I think they are not patient. some of them, not everyone, they are not patient to see this happen. So female caregivers are still, of course, struggling to ensure that we really celebrate these milestones together as the community, because they are having challenges at the family level where they are kind of abandoned, not supported by their families, more so the paternal, the husband's family. So we are still having that big problem, but of course, as we go on, we are trying to come up with strategies on how to enhance male involvement in parenting a child and caring for a child with a disability. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's your final message? Because I'm going to use this few minutes to get everybody's take-home message to a person who's watching you out there. One, I'd like you to give a message to, like, I believe there are those who are grown up, like yours, who you say 11, and you must have had a drive not to give up and say, I am with you. And I think she's your favorite. So what's your take-home message?
I think I just need to speak to the caregivers that when you give birth to a child with disability, don't give up. Love is magical. Once you love this child, you will have all the reasons to support them and appreciate those small milestones that come at a time. So let us embrace our children, confess positively towards them, and let us, what we show these children is what the community gives them. If you call them funny names, the community will join you to pull them down. Blessing is a celebrity right now. She's always on the national platforms making presentations. Recently, she was in Kumi with the vice president for the International Deaf Persons with Disabilities at 11. So these children have very good talents. They are talented. They have inbuilt and hidden potential that if we don't support them to get them, realize them, they will never become someone. But they have the capacity, ability to become who God has designed them to be once they are supported. So let us support them, let us love them, let us keep a deaf ear from what the community is speaking about our children with disabilities, because I know they can make it and they have the potential.
Okay, Esther?
You will allow me, before I give my last comment, that to mention that physiotherapists, we have an association. It's called Uganda Association of Physiotherapy. And through this, we are doing our best to reach out to as many people as possible. For example, during the World Physio Day, which comes on the 8th of September, this last September, they went out into Mbarara, and they had a camp where they were educating people about physiotherapy, giving free treatment and things like that, causing general awareness. So through that, physiotherapy will become known as well. I thought I should just mention that. But my last word is that rehabilitation is not only for people with disability or long-term impairment. It is essential service for anyone with acute or chronic health condition, impairment, injury, or anything limiting functions. And it is available. So anyone who has that should really feel free to come and get it. Because I feel so hurt when I walk along the street and I see some of these people who are crippled. And I know that it was a simple thing that could have been corrected if they had been given the right attention. But because they didn't know where to go or whom to approach, they ended up being crippled. So please, let's have people come to get the right treatment, because there are over 50% of those people who are out there who are crippled in one way or the other, who shouldn't be. So my appeal to the public is, let's look for the right service and get the right, correct rehabilitation so that we are okay.
Okay,
thank you.
Dr. Moses?
Thank you very much. Yeah, my final appeal it will be in two ways. Of course, I would like to acknowledge that there have been significant advances over the last couple of years with regards to service provision, and with regards to accessibility of some of these services. We also have to appreciate the government enforcing or trying to encourage more people going into the sciences. Why this is very important is that the more people we have out there that are knowledgeable and are practicing, the cheaper these services become and the more accessible they become. The government, being the #1 employer, will be able to employ more people in these particular areas, and so it will make it easier for us. Right now, services, yes, are accessible, but still quite expensive. But we are so many steps ahead of where we were a couple of years back. The other thing is that majority of these services are actually very, very accessible. Things that used to take people to Nairobi to just go and have devices made, and it's no longer the way. We now have private entities and some government entities that have the capacity to make all of these devices. So before a person actually now goes or leaves the country, it would be best if they seek the resources that are actually locally available, because it will become cheaper in the long run, and it's easy for a patient to follow up, because this is a lifetime problem that a person might be having, and you cannot keep on going to Nairobi or South Africa or Germany every time you have a problem, because it becomes very costly. So much as, yes, some people might be able to afford, but right now we actually do have the services and the facilities within the country to help the Ugandan population. And maybe lastly, just to the policy makers, it's something that at least we are now starting to see the right direction, and if they could enhance the services or the availability of the resources that they are giving to the government institutions, that would go a long way in making these services available to the whole nation. Because I gave you statistics earlier of the number of people that we get to see, but we are only just a small institution. There are other people out there that, first of all, are not knowledgeable, and then others cannot just access these services. But government is everywhere. So if it can build its own capacity and improve on the services elsewhere, then that will help us as a nation. The very least of the patients will actually get access to these services, and it will be beneficial for the whole nation. Thank you.
Okay. And finally, Lamek, your take-home message?
Yeah. Thank you, Sophie. Allow me start by saying that what did not come out from us is that ReLAB-HS is a consortium of partners, which is led by the Johns Hopkins University and co-led by University of Melbourne. The other partners are Momentum Wheels for Humanity, Physiopedia, and then Humanity and Inclusion, though we have worked much with them at the global level. And all this bringing expertise in the areas of health systems, implementation science, and then delivery innovations. For us as ReLAB-HS, we are happy that government has given us that platform to be able to bring all this expertise. So my message to our viewers is that rehabilitation is not bought from the market. We need to access services from qualified health providers, because when you get to the quacks, there are complications that may arise due to improper use of assistive products that are given, for example, but also from the intervention that is not proper. So with that, it highlights the critical role of the private sector in the provision of rehab and AT. And for this, we are really grateful to Ministry of Health for providing that platform, and then the leadership as we supplement the efforts of government. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I mean, it's been a very wonderful panel. And I would like to emphasize again to the viewers, do not take things for granted and think that at any one point you can stay away from this kind of rehabilitation and assistive technology. It can come your way in any form. We never take life for granted, but you've had it all, and it is very amazing to see the participation of private sector foundation in all this and their big stakeholders. And with the milestones that have been made, we would like to say we look forward to the policy finally coming out to us. And that's all we had time for in this discussion this morning. Keep watching UBC, for normal programming is coming your way in just a few. Bye-bye.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders